Okay, we're going to do our introduction to Ruby. So Ruby is a very simple language. Those of you who took the Scheme course may feel comfortable. It's a minimalist language with a really rich library. So there's 3 pillars to Ruby, and we'll talk about 2 of them this time. First of all, everything is an object. Absolutely everything is an object. In Java, you got some primitive types like integers that must be boxed to behave like objects, but not in Ruby. Everything's an object. Second thing is every operation is a method call on some object that returns a value. In Java, you can do this operator overloading stuff to get a different method, and it's even possible to get no value, but not in Ruby. Everything is an object. We'll show you even operations like plus or a method call. Every operation is a method call on an object, even plus like that. And all programming is metaprogramming. Everything's dynamic. Everything can change, and Armando will talk about that next time. So let's do the first one. In Ruby, it's interpreted, like Scheme. There's no compile time, so there's no compile time errors. It's really object-oriented. It's one of those pillars of the language. Once you understand that everything is an object, your questions about Ruby will be easier to understand. Just think every time you're doing a method call on some object, no matter what it looks like. It's dynamically typed. Objects have types, variables don't. There will not be a integer type declaration like in the Java and other languages here. You just still have the name will be there without the type. It'll change over time. You can't tell. It's like Python and unlike Java. And it's dynamic. It's highly dynamic. Things will, everything happens at runtime. Even when you can ask questions about classes. You can ask what it can do. You can modify code at runtime. Absolutely everything is runtime. So because it was this minimalist language that had all these interesting features, that's what led to the person who invented Rails to build it in Ruby. And that's why it's called Ruby on Rails. But these lectures this time are just going to be about the language itself. And as we said in the notes, in addition to what's in the book and what's in the slides, we put some pointers at a bunch of online tutorials, depending where you are, to help you understand the Ruby language. But the good news is it's relatively simple. All languages have naming conventions. They have cool names in Ruby for these things. So uppercase names is called camel case like humps in a camel, right? So the class names use upper camel case. So the U, C, and C are the bumps in it. Uppercase because the first letter, some languages, the first letter is not uppercase. It is in Ruby for class names. These are just conventions, right? You can really name it anything you want, but these are the conventions everybody uses. And because you do a lot of reading there, you want to follow the conventions to be a good Ruby programmer. Methods and names use snake case. Snake case is a little underscore between the names, lowercase, little snake thing in between there, right? So there's examples on the slides of, these are all snake case examples right here, right? And here is an example of an upper camel case one. Constants are capital, and they're scoped, just like other variables. The constants make sense within a scope, and test mode is this example. Now, globals have that $sign that are not scoped, and it's in red there because you're not supposed to use it. It's in the language, but do not have global constants. Keep them scoped. Now, one of the distinguishing features of Ruby that makes a difference is it has symbols. In addition to strings, it has what are called symbols. These are immutable strings whose value is itself. And the way you can tell that it's a string is it starts with a colon. And the idea of a symbol is that this is a special thing. There's a limited number of them. There's a set that are okay, as opposed to string can be anything. And you'll see how we use symbols in the definition of the language. But that's one of the different features of the language. A symbol, I am not a string. I'm a member of this limited set. I can't be set to any arbitrary value. And it starts with this colon. Okay, variables, hashes, and arrays. Basically, arrays and hashes, there's no declarations, so you just assign them and they appear. And depending on how you assign it, it acts as a regular variable or array or a hash. Okay. And instance and class variables do have a value of nil until they're assigned. But the other things, you don't know what they are. So what's okay, you can have a variable x assign it an integer object, and if that's what the type is, and then immediately assign it to a string thereafter, no problem. Can't do that in Java. There's nothing like integer, there's no declaration of a type, it's the object that gives it the type. How do you make an array? That's how you make an array. You assign it, right? So X is getting 3 elements. This is the 0th index. 1 is for the second one, and 2. So like all programming languages, I guess, 0 is the first element, 1 is the second, and 2. And you see it's 3 different things. There's an integer, a string, and a symbol. That's fine. You don't have, arrays don't have to be the same type as they do in languages like Java. And then you can assign the bracket on the left, the second element you assign 2 to, and you can ask questions about arrays like its length, and that'll get the, that's the answer. So this Boolean would be true. A hash is just done with these key value pairs, and so you can start off, it can be a string, as the first one is a string here, and then this, here's a symbol with a colon, and you can see that the first element is an integer and the second element is an array, so you can do things like using, identify the hash with this symbol, that's, this one, it's not the second element, hashes aren't ordered, so it's the bth element is there, and then you want the 0th element because what is there is array, and that would be 2 right here, right? And you could ask what are the keys, setting the method keys to that object, and you'll get, here are the 2 keys, are the string A and the symbol B. Okay? And the hashes are quite similar to what you'd see in Python and Perl, and I guess arrays like Python and Perl, but unlike what you expect in Java. Okay? Okay, methods. This is, everything is a method. So you can see that what we're returning from foo is assigned to 2 variables on the left. That means we better have return 2 values, and we do there, so that's okay. And Ruby has this ability that you don't have to supply all the parameters. If you don't supply both parameters, you can specify default. So you can say, well, if you don't give me anything, y is going to have the value 0, and if you do, it'll override it. And so you can call it, right here you see, with x, and then you'll get this default value that you declared. That, as long as you provide that optional initialization of what to do, that's fine in Ruby. Okay. Statements. So like some other modern languages, it's the new line that separates statements. You are allowed to do semicolons, but that's pretty rare in Ruby. Mostly it's going to be new lines. And kind of the philosophy of the designer of Ruby is if the parser can figure it out, you don't have to put all the syntax in there. That's the philosophy here. So this one is okay in the green on the left, raise, boom, unless ship stable, that's okay. This one, this got shifted over a little bit. The reason the parser is going to complain about this one is raise, parentheses, boom is a legal statement, and it'll be surprised what's here afterwards by keeping on the same line. So there's a new line here, right? So that could be its separate statement. That is a legal statement, and then there's the rest of it afterwards. It'll complain about that, but there was no new line here, so it was okay to have that afterwards. But kind of the way the Ruby parser works, it'll let you get away with things if it can figure it out. That's the philosophy here. Here's the standard basic comparison operations as you go across. Now, one thing that's different about Ruby from some of the other scripting languages is false and nil evaluate to false. Everything else evaluates to true. So in languages, I think, like Perl, the empty string is false, not in Ruby. It's false and nil, everything else is true, so keep that in mind. There's the standard control flow statements that you see in all languages, if statements, if else, while statements. Now, it's, even though we have for loops here in the Ruby context, you won't see them that much. One of the powerful ideas of Ruby is the iterator construct.